Kentucky's governor says there are conversations to turn some hotel room beds into beds for hospital-type care. It would help in the surge of coronavirus cases. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to a travel industry official about that plan and has more from Frankfort.
Governor Andy Beshear says the state currently has a little more than 18,000 hospital beds, but he says they will need thousands more once COVID-19 hits its peak. He says right now they are under contract to get 1,600 additional beds from hotels. Many hotels are sitting empty and others' occupancy is drastically reduced with so few people traveling. Told to stay at home. There's no vacations to go on or conventions to attend. State government is working with emergency management and the travel industry to make use of those empty beds. And we're told the hotels are responding very favorably.
We noted that there were hotels from every area of the state that were expressing this interest.
As part of that process, the governor says they are also trying to get more personal protective equipment, ventilators, and ICU beds. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Officials say they are not ready to reveal which specific hotels or hotel chains could be used. So let's take a look at the latest map of Kentucky showing COVID-19 cases ahead of Governor Beshear's news conference at 5. There are now confirmed cases in at least 70 of Kentucky's 120 counties. Today, we learned about a Pulaski County man who died. He was among 15 cases now in Pulaski County. We will talk to the judge executive about his message to folks coming up at 6. A former president of Eastern Kentucky University has found himself among hundreds stuck on a cruise ship in the Atlantic. Doug Whitlock retired from EKU in 2013. He and his wife have been stuck on a cruise ship that left Chile back on March 5th. Cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed on board the ship, and passengers have had to stay in their rooms since Tuesday. The ship is scheduled to dock at Fort Lauderdale on Saturday, but it is unclear when the passengers will be allowed to leave the ship. We hope to hear from Whitlock coming up at 6. As schools and daycares are closed due to COVID-19, Model City Head Start in Pikeville is trying to stay connected to their kids. Family advocate Amber Hunter started doing Facebook Lives every day, trying to keep the bond between her and her families. She knows parents have to make meals on a budget and demonstrates crafts to make with their children. She says keeping a child busy and in a routine is critical during this time.
That is how their world works. When their schedule is off, they can cause them to have anxiety and fear, and we don't want that. We're trying to stay connected, have a schedule, and help the kids get through it as best as they can.
Hunter goes live every day at noon on the Model City Head Start Facebook page. Tonight at 11, WYMT's Emily Bennett will take you inside those Facebook Live videos. In Pike County, the sheriff and his deputies are doing what they can for the community. For those vulnerable and elderly folks, deputies will head out to get medications and essentials for you if needed. These are pictures of Deputy Robert Orem packing up to help a family of 8 today. We learned yesterday afternoon the Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival was canceled this year. For the first time since World War II, board members announced on Wednesday the festival would be called off. Chairperson Colby Slusher says it was not an easy decision, but it was necessary along with other closings. The board plans to have some kind of recognition for those pageant candidates selected this year.
We'll be trying to highlight those girls and very apologetic to them, but this is something that's out of our control. We didn't want to cancel. We just felt like we had no choice.
Those board members hope to start planning the 2021 festival as soon as possible. School districts are trying to keep kids fed while they are at home during the coronavirus outbreak. WYMT's Madison Pergram has more on the efforts of one school that provides nearly 600 meals a day.
This is not the typical lunchtime scene you would see at Roy G. Eversole Elementary.
Each school we have a drive-through location that you can pick up lunch and breakfast every day.
Bagging meals to make sure kids' bellies are full.
Last week we had a person that sent a picture of her refrigerator, and the only thing in it was the food that we give out here at the school.
Commissioner of Agriculture Ryan Quarles stopping by to join the effort.
We're all about food, and we want to make sure that everyone has access to that, especially when you're learning. If a kid goes home or doesn't have proper nutrition, the last thing on their mind is learning.
Whether it be chips, a ham and cheese sandwich, or an apple. It is all about putting food on the table.
This is a lifeline. My hat is off to our food service directors and their staff across all of Kentucky's school districts because they are the unsung heroes right now.
How you doing? Taking care of all them kids?
Serving up a little hope.
Thank you all.
In Hazard, Madison Pergram, WYMT Mountain News.
Along with their drive-through sites, Hazard Independent Schools also delivers meals on the bus routes and has bus stop locations. They will start serving meals for the weekend starting this week. Now, Ryan Quarles was originally supposed to be in Hazard last night as the guest speaker at Civic Night, but that, of course, was postponed.
Hello, and a very happy Friday Eve from my guest room, testing out some of that new technology today, and it's been a gorgeous day in the mountains. We've seen that sunshine finally return and those clouds clear out. Let's go ahead and take you up to a few of those cameras as we look along Stonecrest over into Prestonsburg. Quiet over there, but just seeing that sun shining so brightly. And as we look over into the Mountain Parkway, where we're starting to see a little bit more of that green over there, or Interstate 75, excuse me, over into Mount Vernon, you are seeing those quiet conditions, but also seeing that green over there as well, and those beautiful blue skies, and hopefully we're going to see a lot more green, especially as we see more rain start to move back into the mountains. We'll get into that a little bit later, but satellite and radar has been really quiet for the day, a different change from the past couple of days, a few high clouds here and there, but those cleared out pretty nicely, and those temperatures are comfortably in the upper 50s to lower 60s, so it's been nice, a little bit cooler than what we're used to last week when we were in those 80s, but the warmer temperatures are on the way as we head into the next few days. You can see that here. We get to the upper 60s tomorrow. Those low to mid 70s return by the weekend and into the new week, but like I said, some rain chances, of course, are in that 7-day forecast. I'll tell you when to expect those coming up in a little bit.
All right, Paige, thank you. Roughly 90% of the United States is under stay-at-home orders now, and there are more than 220,000 confirmed coronavirus cases across the nation. As the number of cases continues to rise, paramedics in New York City receive new orders. If they can't revive a patient at the scene, they are not to bring that patient to the hospital because ERs are overwhelmed. The Food and Drug Administration has approved a test that could detect whether an asymptomatic person has been exposed to the coronavirus. With the number of confirmed U.S. cases well over 200,000 now, as I mentioned just a moment ago, Democrats are calling on the president to do more for medical personnel and the uninsured. CBS's Skylar Henry reports from the White House.
The FDA granted emergency use approval for a test that can detect whether a person has developed antibodies to COVID-19.
The peace of mind that would come from knowing you already were infected, you have antibody, you're safe from reinfection 99.9% of the time.
Meanwhile, the White House continues to discuss other measures to stop the spread, including a limited domestic travel ban.
We look at that literally every day. It really depends on what city you're talking about and from where you are coming. But no decisions have been made about banning travel within the domestic United States.
President Trump says the national stockpile is nearly depleted of personal protective equipment as state governors continue to plead for more supplies. Congressional Democrats have called on President Trump to fully use the Defense Production Act. The president responded on Twitter, saying the complainers should have been stocked up and ready long before this crisis hit.
Making demands of your government at a time in which there is great need is not complaining.
Democrats also want the president to open a special enrollment period under the Affordable Care Act exchanges, which would allow those who've previously opted out to sign up for health insurance coverage.
We are the wealthiest country on the planet Earth. Everyone here in a health crisis should have access to health care.
So far, the administration has refused. Some state-run health care exchanges have opened up enrollment to allow the uninsured to obtain coverage during the coronavirus crisis. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
House Democrats have now formed a select committee on the coronavirus crisis to oversee the Trump administration's response to the pandemic. Coming up on Mountain News at 4:30, doctors worry concerns over COVID-19 could lead to more suicides. We'll talk to one expert about how to get help.
And we'll see more sunshine as we head into the weekend, but could add a few sprinkles back to the forecast. I'll have those details coming up.